require reporting on certain census statistics and modify apportionment of representatives to be based on United States citizens instead of all individuals. But we know that Democrats in the Senate will not bring this to a vote, which means that on top of bleeding us dry economically and waging crime sprees across the nation, they will soon get voting power through representation. Here to discuss is Gabrielle Kachia, media correspondent, powered by Drano Media. Gabrielle, thanks so much for being with us today. It's great to have you on the show.
Allison, thank you so much. Just for your viewers, I used to be the White House correspondent for One American News back in 2019, and I just love OAN so much, and I've loved seeing you grow, and happy to be here, truly. It's such a nice little reunion.
Thank you. Well, that means so much to me and the network. We're so excited to have you here. Hopefully we can make this a regular thing. But Gabby, yeah, that would be awesome. Gabby, I'm curious to get your thoughts on all this. If the Democrats can get more congressional seats and presidential electoral votes through body count, I mean, ultimately, they can control the whole nation, can't they?
They absolutely can. I mean, just this past week, we learned that if you live in somewhere like Denver, Colorado, that you can call 211 and you can just host illegal immigrants, and illegal immigrants are also able to call 211 themselves and get paired up with people who are willing to just open the doors for them to walk on in. You talk about the Underground Railroad back in the day. You had to just smuggle people in and then hope for, pray that they would end up getting citizenship. But now all you have to do is just dial a number and you show on up, and freedom is a ringing for a lot of people. And I'm very curious at how many phone calls Denver is getting right now. But it's just truly no surprise. You think about these states. I mean, Denver alone, it's about 700,000 people, 80% of which identify as Democrat. Then you think about the fact that you look at the IRS numbers, they're required since 2011 to show of people who have social security numbers, what their voter registration is. And we stopped this year, the past March 30th of 2024. We do not know the numbers of, they're no longer keeping score of that on the IRS.gov. So, you look at the numbers of people coming on in, we're giving them some sort of citizenship. We have a driver's license identification law in Denver, or in Colorado, where you can just get, as an illegal immigrant, you can get a driver's license. And by default, you get a driver's license, then you're able to register to vote. So it makes complete sense to me why the government isn't even keeping track of this anymore on something like IRS.gov. Because there's people like us that are going to look for it, and we found it, and we don't like what we're seeing.
It is just appalling. I don't know how any American citizen could actually be okay with what's happening here, but it's funny because I always hear from rhinos, illegals are a natural fit for the Republican Party. They're mostly Mexican Catholics who share our values. But I'm sorry, over 90% of Mexican immigrants vote Democrat, and we're being flooded now with Chinese nationals, Islamists, and more from over 150 countries with no end in sight, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And I always like to follow up when people talk about illegal immigration and they just assume the South American countries. I'm like, that's a little racist if you ask me, because I remember being at the University of Pennsylvania. You talk about liberal schools and the institutions. I mean, you look at the Biden Center for Global Engagement. They actually got $900,000 from 2017 to 2019 straight from the CCP. The committee oversight has actually asked UPenn to release information as to where those numbers are, or why the Biden administration, the Biden Center for Global Engagement and University of Pennsylvania accepted this money. And of course, it's coming from CCP. When I was at UPenn, I swear every single day I was walking on down campus, and I'm not exaggerating. You could ask anyone, a liberal or a conservative, every week at least you would see a van of Chinese specific troves of Chinese people just bebopping right on Locust Walk at the University of Pennsylvania. So it is all by design. I mean, you can even look at the FBI's website, and they do talk about the 1,000 Talents plan. So it's, right in plain sight, but we're just so darn desensitized on both ends of the spectrum. It's really disappointing.
Which is probably all intentional too, right?
Yeah, sure is.
Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, they're, of course, killing us economically too, getting goodies that Americans simply don't get. Like you mentioned, in Denver right now, the illegals have sent a list of demands now to the mayor for housing, 3 meals a day. I mean, the list goes on. We've seen multiple cities implementing this. What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? The thoughts are, I wish I wasn't an American right now for some reason, right? I mean, sheesh, with the Biden economy, I'm like, yeah, I would be more than happy getting, you talk about somewhere like Colorado, they get 6 months free of rent. They don't have to pay rent. the rent's too dang high. I think you can say dang on television. I don't know
Yes,
anymore.
you
Been
can.
out of it for a little bit, but they're getting their food. They're getting supplies. I mean, even if you're one to host these people, these illegal immigrants, you get your utilities paid for. And then think about the fact that you have fantastic squatter laws these days.
Yeah.
So you think you bring in an immigrant family and then say they have a baby or say they just have young children. I mean, I would be the best tenant ever, right? Because if I spend a certain amount of time in somewhere like Colorado, I actually own the property.
Yeah.
Just by pure squatter law. It's phenomenal, truly.
It is truly phenomenal. It baffles my mind. And honestly, I don't know if you're down, but maybe we could take a trip down south and then re-enter and get some of these benefits, because this is just insane. I mean, these people break into our house and make demands that we provide a guest house, fill our fridges up for them. But they're a natural voting constituent for Republicans. It's mental.
Nuts.
It's mental.
The worst part is that our government's facilitating that, right? People like you and I can speak up and we could say no, and we could let people know what the heck is actually going on, but to not have the backing. I would even say, I'm a conservative for sure, but I'm not going to make any passes for people just because they have a seat at Capitol Hill. Those are our dollars paying for their salary.
Amen. Amen, sister. I am with you on that. You mentioned this a little bit ago. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper. You recently reported that on top of all of these other goodies, there's a bill, which is SB 13251, that allows the issuance of a non-citizen driver license for the illegals. What more can you tell us about this?
Unfortunately, that it's true. And there's not a lot of mental gymnastics to go along with it, other than the fact that you look at the dichotomy of those that actually took the test. They know their American history, and they are the ones that actually are forced to go physically into the DMV. But if you are an illegal immigrant, then you can renew your ID that should have never been given to you in the first place, considering a driver's license. And you could do that online. So that just kind of snowballs into all these demands. When you talk about that Denver list, they're saying, hey, give us free showers. I want, if the food on top of that, I want cultural appropriate food, handling transportation, and then dealing with the education for their children. I mean, it is just gimme, gimme, gimme. So this is just another additive to it, truly. And what a shame. But it's like falling in line with, I'm from New York. It falls right in line with that. I can't tell you how many times I begged just to show my ID when I would vote. But they don't care anyway. So it's all just snowballs into a complete mess, truly.
Yes, it really does. It's just yet another admission that you have to have IDs to live in America. Meanwhile, they fight voter ID, right? It's so ridiculous. You cannot make this stuff up. But you know, one massive lie they tell us about illegals is that they contribute more to America economically than they take. But a new study out of Britain proves that mass illegal migration is, not shockingly, a drain on resources. My goodness. Did you ever see that one coming?
No, who knew? Who knew? Just kidding. I did know. I was always suspect about it to begin with. And I will say last week, the International Monetary Fund, that's IMF, they actually counter exactly Joe Biden the same time. So this is last week, had said that the reason that places like India, Russia, China, you name it, Japan, that they are failing economically because of xenophobia, which is so interesting because when you look at the IMF actually counters that whole argument and says, well, there's actually this global economic decline, slowdown for all countries to include the United States. But, you know, Biden points to somewhere like India. India is actually the fastest growing economy. Fiscal year for 2024, they're projecting almost 8% increase in GDP. And you talk about like their gross domestic products, like made in America, right? Like that would be good for us. Maybe we should do that like India. I don't know what products they're pushing out there, but it's going up 6.5%. So, you know, Biden economics or Bidenomics, whatever the heck you want to call it, just means ignoring real numbers. I really appreciate that the IMF actually talked about this. They weren't swaying one way or the other. They were just saying, hey, look, the economic reality is horrific, and wages specifically in America are actually not rising because of this mass immigration. So it's all there.
Yeah, it's all there.
I'm just repeating it.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think it's just safe to assume at this point that everything from the current regime, as I like to call them, is just nothing but a flat out lie. It's sickening, it's disgusting, and it should outrage every single American. Gabby, we are all out of time for today. Thank you so much for joining us to weigh in. It was really great having you.
Oh, it was great being here. Thank you.
Anytime. All right, coming up.